So you're having problems with your firearm. You think it may be something internal, but the problem may be right under your nose. It may be so simple that you don't even think about it. G2 here, guys. Welcome back to the channel. And it comes down to 3 words.
Oh, it's true! It's damn true!
They do. They matter. We've put out a lot of videos. You've seen a lot of issues. I've gone through a lot of potential things, and I always talk about this, yet I very rarely hear or see any video on YouTube that talks about this. Clean mags. So let's shoot over to the bench, and I'm going to show you what you might be missing.
All right, so here we are at the bench. I've got a variety of magazines here, and I want to go over something that, we talk about this stuff all the time, like I said in the intro. Failure to fires, misfeeds, all that stuff, and we automatically assume that it has something to do with the bolt carrier group, okay, or the gas system, or something like that. But I always tell you and talk about the importance of good magazines. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of firearms, there are cheap magazines out there that may not perform as well as OEM magazines or some other magazines. But the common element for all of these is the importance of keeping your magazine clean. Now, all magazines operate under the same philosophy in terms of the components they're made up of. So you've got your physical magazine housing, you have a bottom plate, a spring, and a follower. So it's 4 pieces. When you're dealing with surplus, like here we've got this is an SKS magazine, a Tapco. We've got a Smith & Wesson here, a 45 ACP, Bakelite 7.62x39, AR, Glock 9, AR Colt, and then another AR Lancer, which this is, if you guys are looking for probably the best magazine on the market, this Lancer L5 AWM, I think is the best combination of all of the things that are great about AR magazines. It's got a polymer housing, but on the top here, the feeding tips are metal. So why that's good is, these don't bend out or won't flare out over time like some of these polymers will do. So you have the security of a steel mag with the lightweight of a polymer. So when you're looking at a magazine, they're going to have one of 2 ways to take these apart. They may be something simple like this, where there's a physical button here that you can depress with a round or whatever, and that will open up the slide plate and you can access the spring and follower. Or they may be, if you have some of the older ones, like especially the metal Colt GIs, they don't have a button to necessarily press in. What they do is they have a plate here and 2 lips. You can see right here, these 2 lips, and that plate kind of sits in that lip right there. So what you do is you just get something in here and you leverage it up just enough to expose those 2 teeth right there, and then you can slide it off like so and access the internals, okay? And then you just put it back in. So when we're talking about cleaning your magazines, this is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to use we'll do 1 AR and 1 pistol just to show you. So we use this hex mag here. So this one here, we've got our depression, so we'll depress that in, we'll slide it forward, take off our floor plate, we have our magazine and follower. So here's our 5 pieces, I guess we could say. The body of your magazine, the follower, the spring, the bottom seat plate, and then the physical bottom plate. So what you want to do is first check the inside of your body. Does it look good? Is there any burrs, especially on polymer? Is it wearing anywhere out? And you'll notice when you open this up, you'll see residue at the bottom here of this plate or on your bottom plate, showing that something is scraping. And that's usually not a good thing. So just grab yourself a towel. You don't have to really dig in to these. Grab yourself a towel, get something to kind of run that towel through. And just bring it out the top, okay? And just give it a nice wipe off. Now your bottom plate, just give that a wipe off. Now when it comes to the physical spring and follower, we want to look at these parts that ride inside of the magazine. So the ends of the followers, do they look smooth? Are there any burrs or deformations? Which this one is perfect because it's never been used. And then again, we're looking for unusual wear on the spring. Does it feel tight? Is there any corrosion on it? And if not, this one looks good. What we're gonna do is just simply lay out our towel here. We're gonna get a little WD-40. We're gonna spray it on that spring. We're just gonna rub it around. It doesn't have to be a ton here, right? We're not over lubricating this. And then we are going to, if you want to, for good measure, you can always lubricate the sides of this. For polymer and polymer, not necessary. If you're dealing with like a steel, I would absolutely lubricate either the inside of the steel here or the follower. And then we're just gonna put the follower back in. Remember that they will have a raised edge, okay? And that raised edge will go up against your lip. So it sits in just like that, okay? And then you're gonna use your one hand to compact that in, make sure everything is sitting correctly, like so. And just grab your plate and put it back in. Super easy, check it for function, looks good. The ones that you use the most, you wanna clean them. I would say you should be cleaning them every time you use them after the fact, just to be safe. If you clean them, put them in a bag, right? Put them in an ammo box, somewhere there's no dirt, humidity controlled, things like that, and you won't have to worry about this, right? You do it once and you're good. But the ones you use the most, make sure you're constantly cleaning them. There's nothing bad that can happen from additional cleaning, right? You already got your rifle out or your firearm or whatever. Just go ahead and clean your magazine while you're along with it. Now, one more thing I want to talk about, and I've talked about this before, and it's always been a topic, it always comes up, the discussion of, is it okay to keep your magazines loaded all the way and in storage? And the short answer is yes. It is perfectly fine. You will not wear out that spring by keeping this loaded for extended periods of time, okay? The way springs work on tension is the only way that you can wear out a spring is corrosion, so that's why we want to keep them dry. Overloading, which you can't overload a magazine, right? The spring is designed for 30 rounds. So, I mean, I guess if you were able to force 32 in there, you're putting the spring on overloaded force. So yes, you have a chance of pushing that spring out of tension and overusing it, okay? So, but you can't, right? So just load them and keep them loaded and dry, and they're fine. Obviously, stretching a spring this way, opposite of the way it's supposed to go, yes, you will ruin the spring, but the only thing that ruins springs, or I won't say ruins them, causes them to wear, is excessive use. And excessive use is not defined by keeping it under tension. It is defined by tension off, tension off, tension off, tension off. That is extended use, right? So the more you use the magazine, the more you're at risk of wearing that spring out. But let's be honest, these are mildly high carbon steel springs that will probably not wear out in your lifetime. The only thing that you have to worry about is corrosion, which is why we're doing what we're doing. So yes, it's absolutely fine to keep your magazines fully loaded in storage for extended periods of time. You're not hurting anything. even though they're rated for 30 rounds, I put mine at 29. And that's just a thing that I do because it's really two reasons. One, we're not overloading the spring, right? Even though it's rated for 30 rounds, putting 29 is like the absolute guarantee that you're not gonna overwork the spring, right? So you're just one under the capacity, so you're well within the guidelines of the range of that spring tension and force. And the second reason is when you go to load this magazine, when you have it fully loaded, you will notice that it's very hard sometimes to insert that magazine into the magazine well. You get a lot of pushback. You really have to slam it home. And sometimes you may think you do it and it's not fully seated, and then you go to cycle the weapon and you get a misfeed or something like that, a failure to feed. It's because there's just a lot of tension. In that top round, it will technically be seating in this position here, is slightly over top of the lips of the magazine. So you're putting an enormous amount of pressure onto the bottom of that bolt carrier group, which makes it harder to seat. So when you have it only loaded to 29, your first round, so to speak, is sitting in this position below the lips of the magazine, which makes it much, much more reliable to function. Not to say you can't load it at 30, but you really got to slam it, tap it, and rack it. But just a side note, that's what I like to do. Doesn't mean that's what you have to do. I just gave you the reasons why I do it, and take them for a grain of salt or take them for whatever you want. So that's it. Moral of the story. You clean your guns, clean your magazines, right? If you're having issues with feeding and you know that your gun is good, or you're beginning the process of investigating what's going on, start here. Start here. Try more than one magazine. That's why I've got, just for AR alone, I've got a PMag, I've got a Lancer, and I've got a Hex Mag. And I've got a Colt. You never know which one is going to be the best, which one your specific gun is going to like, so have options. So until next time, make sure that you're practicing safe weapons handling at all times and treating every weapon as if it was loaded. God bless America. G2 out.